Southern Fried True Crime covers cases that are not suitable for young listeners, and there may also be some explicit language used. Listener discretion is advised. A little over 2 years ago, I released episode 119, Neonaticide, the Lindsey Lowe case. At the time, it was my first episode back after my latest back surgery. I told my husband I wanted to come back with a bang. Boy, was that an understatement. To date, it may be the most controversial case I have ever covered. And not for reasons like the Darlie Routier case, where Lindsey has all these fans who will come for you on social media and in reviews. No, many of you disagreed with my opinions about her case. And that's fine. You cannot express an opinion without understanding that some people may disagree with you. The real drama was over one small part of the episode, and I'll talk a bit about that later. The point of this episode is there has been a major update in the case. I do recommend you go back and listen to the whole episode, but for now, let me give you a very short summary. Welcome to bonus episode 187, an update on the Lindsey Lowe case. First, just a quick note on why this is a bonus episode. Beginning sometime last year and officially at the start of 2023, I went to producing 3 episodes a month. Unfortunately, my health was suffering trying to stay on a weekly schedule. But with the help of Andrea Marshbank, I've been able to get ahead, and now with the help of a writer named Gemma Harris, I will be releasing short bonus episodes to round out each month. You'll still get 3 normal-length episodes and then 1 short one. Many of these will be update episodes about cases I've covered, like this one. I considered making these Patreon exclusive, but I don't like putting content like this behind a paywall, and I know that a week off is irritating to some listeners. This also gives me the option to take the week off if I need to. I hope you enjoy these episodes and the new schedule. Now, on to today's case. On September 12, 2011, Lindsey Lowe, a 25-year-old woman from Hendersonville, Tennessee, was very sick. She spent many hours in the bathroom. She lived at home with her parents and her sister, and they were concerned. She told them it was just a stomach bug. They had no idea she was 9 months pregnant and in labor. The next day, Lindsey didn't go to work, but she was no longer spending all of her time in the bathroom, so everyone thought she was feeling better. The following day, September 14th, Lindsey did go back to work. And since she had been sick for 2 days, her mother Paula decided to help her by cleaning up her room. While doing so, Paula noticed a laundry basket on the floor next to Lindsey's bed and began rifling through it to put a load in the washer. That's when Paula found a newborn baby in the basket. It was cold to the touch. After first responders pronounced the baby dead, Lindsey was picked up at work by a Hendersonville detective and taken to the station, where she confessed to giving birth to twins. At that point, no one had found the second baby in the laundry basket. Lindsey was indicted for 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder, 2 counts of first-degree felony murder in the perpetration of aggravated child abuse, and 2 counts of aggravated child abuse. In 2013, after a nearly 2-week trial, Lindsey was convicted of smothering her newborn infants to death. She was sentenced to serve 56 years. Lindsey's convictions and sentences were upheld on appeal. Then in September of 2019, Lindsey's attorneys submitted a petition for post-conviction relief to Judge D. David Gay, the same judge who had presided over her trial. The petition stated that Lindsey's trial attorneys were ineffective and there was juror misconduct. According to the petition, Lindsey's trial attorneys failed to ask a properly qualified medical expert like an obstetrician, gynecologist, or medical trauma specialist to testify on Lindsey's behalf. They failed to advance an expert witness to testify that Lindsey's statement was unreliable because it was based on a technique used by Hendersonville police, which has been known to produce false confessions. They failed to hire an independent forensic medical examiner to testify about the cause of death of the babies or to perform independent autopsies. They failed to properly prepare expert witnesses, Dr. Pam Auble and Dr. William Kenner, who at times offered contradictory testimony. And the cherry on top, they failed to challenge the selection of a juror who was clearly biased against Lindsey. During the questionnaire process, a female juror, who we will call Jane Smith, answered a question about Lindsey's innocence or guilt with this: she lied and killed her 2 infants. That should have been the end of it for Jane, but it wasn't. She should have been stricken for cause right then and there, but she moved on to voir dire. When Jane was questioned during the selection process in court, she was asked if she had an opinion on whether or not Lindsey was guilty or not guilty. While under oath, Jane told the judge and the district attorney no, which, according to her questionnaire answer, was most certainly a lie. But Jane Smith was ultimately selected to be on the jury. And that's not where Jane's indiscretions end. Another jury member told attorneys that Jane Smith expressed bias against Lindsey before the trial ever started. The juror said Jane has strong opinions against Lindsey Lowe from the beginning for guilt. Lindsey's father and 6 other people saw Jane Smith pump her fist when she learned she made the jury. She then looked around to see if anyone saw her. The district attorney spoke with Jane and said she vehemently denied pumping her fist. So she was left on the jury. After reading over Lindsey's petition, Judge Gay ordered a hearing where attorneys could argue for a new trial. The hearing was set for August 2020. However, due to COVID, it had to be rescheduled numerous times. It was finally held in October 2022. After the hearing, Judge Gay decided that Lindsey did not receive a fair trial. He overturned her conviction, and she was released on bond pending a new trial. Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti has appealed Judge Gay's decision. He does not agree with the judge's ruling that Lindsey did not receive a fair trial. But according to News Channel 5, most experts agree that the chances of overturning Judge Gay's ruling are slim. Legal analyst Nick Leonardo said, "In this particular case, I don't think the Attorney General will be successful in appealing because of a massive error that strikes at the heart of the judicial system and our justice system." Attorney General Skrmetti's appeal will likely not be heard until sometime late this year. The date has not yet been set. Judge Gay has recused himself from participating any further in this case. A new judge will be assigned. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Judge Gay in a minute. Many have questioned if juror Jane Smith will face charges for lying under oath during the jury selection process. The answer is no. Unfortunately, the statute of limitations has expired. No new trial date has yet been set for Lindsey. Until then, she remains free on bond. She is living with her parents and is supervised by community corrections. Now, interestingly, if you remember my episode, I was highly critical of Judge Gay. I felt that he treated Lindsey improperly all during the trial, admonishing her in front of the jury, saying that she was acting like a child because she was crying. I may not mention it often, but most people who follow true crime know that defendants cry all the time during a trial. Oftentimes, they cry at inappropriate times. I'm looking at you, Darlie Routier. Darlie sat calmly dry-eyed through most of the gruesome testimony about her sons, but cried her self-pitying eyes out when she testified and talked about herself or watched friends and family testify about her. It was very telling. That's not what Lindsey did. She just cried and cried throughout and couldn't listen to a lot, if not most of the testimony. She would cover her ears and put her head down during forensic testimony about her babies. She had planned on testifying on her own behalf, but changed her mind after the dressing down she got from the judge. I'm not saying the judge was wrong for removing her from the courtroom if she was disruptive. I'm saying what he said to her in front of the jury was improper. Whether he meant to or not, he was telegraphing his personal feelings about Lindsey Lowe to the jury. He had already admonished her privately in chambers, so maybe he just lost his temper. But either way, he he should have dismissed the jury before removing Lindsey or directly confronting her. As you may remember, I got creamed on social media and in my reviews for what I said about Judge Gay during his sentencing remarks. For the first time, and so far, the last time in this podcast's history, I removed a section and apologized. To this day, I regret it. I was not wrong. But when people are screaming that you hate Christians, you have to put out the fire. If you haven't listened to the episode or listened after I cut that part out, I criticized Judge Gay for quoting evangelical Christian author and lobbyist James Dobson. You can simply look at his wiki page to find out why I objected to his statements in open court. For the record, again, I do not hate Christians. I don't hate anyone, and I respect all religions, though I do try and leave out my own beliefs in the show. But here is some inside baseball for you. I actually got the post-conviction relief motion signed by Judge Gay from a defense attorney who asked to remain anonymous. It was not her case, but attorneys talk, and she got a copy of it before it was made public. She likes Southern Fried. She was a defense attorney in a different episode, which got her to start listening to the show. She told me she found my comments on Lindsey Lowe to be insightful and fair. But what was really interesting is that she told me she had been trying cases in front of Judge Gay for 20 years and had never seen him behave that way before. She had never seen him treat a defendant the way he treated Lindsey Lowe, certainly no one she ever defended. She wondered, the same way I did, if the judge could not help his own bias. She wrote to me, quote, "Even though he doesn't critique his own behavior in his grant of a new trial, I have to wonder if that had something to do with the decision. All her appeals had been denied, and this was really her last chance." We both feel it is possible Judge Gay now feels remorse for how he behaved during Lindsey's trial, that he knew deep down his bias was not right. Note that he recused himself from participating any further in this case. That's also very telling. I think many people, like my anonymous source and myself included, felt that Lindsey Lowe suffered from a mental illness. I always harp on the standard for diminished capacity in this country. Did the defendant know the difference between right and wrong at the time of the alleged crime? With Lindsey, it was truly one of those few times in these defenses that I'm not sure she did understand what was going on. I pointed out in my episode that if she planned to kill her newborns to cover up the pregnancy, she had a whole day to dispose of their bodies. She was home alone all day, but she didn't. She left them in a laundry basket and returned to work the next day in a haze. You may have heard of another case of Brooke Schuyler Richardson, the ex-cheerleader who buried her newborn baby in her parents' backyard. Her defense was that the baby was born dead, and medical experts could not prove that the baby had born alive, so she was acquitted of murder. She was convicted of abuse of a corpse and sentenced to probation. I have not studied the Richardson case, but the fact that she buried the baby, to me anyway, points to her knowing the difference between right and wrong. What was not provable in court was whether the baby was born alive, and that is why she walked free. An independent pathologist in Lindsey's case may have found that her babies were not born alive, or at the very least, have given an opinion based only on the autopsy, not what the detective on the case believed happened. I'll get into this more in a moment. And as to a couple of other points in the motion, that the Hendersonville detective used an interrogation technique known to produce false confessions, well, I told you in the episode at the time, he didn't technically do anything wrong. It's like how on TV, when you are told that detectives can lie to people they are interrogating. For me, I felt Lindsey needed medical help, and so did her father, before she was interrogated. Her father was understandably upset when he sent the detective to pick up his daughter from work. Her blood type is Rh negative, and he was trying to tell the detective she could be in danger if she gave birth unassisted with that blood type. But he did ask if she needed an attorney, and the detective answered, "She's too old," which again, he didn't have to outright tell Lindsey's father she will have to ask for one herself. Instead, he answered in that odd way, and Lindsey's emotionally distracted father didn't react the way he might have if he was thinking clearly. He might have hired his daughter an attorney right away, but Lindsey still had to ask for one as a legal adult. He also might have gone to pick up Lindsey himself and taken her to the hospital if he had known what the detective was going to do. But he wasn't thinking clearly. Like most people, he believes the police are always going to do the right thing. Yes, the detective had a right to interrogate Lindsey, but if there was a chance she was in danger, Lindsey's father had every reason to trust that a police officer would take her to the hospital. And if she was suffering from blood loss and was having some sort of mental break, would she be thinking clearly? She certainly did not seem to know that she should ask for an attorney. Other witnesses at the jail testified that she seemed pale and weak. And let's be honest, she did just give birth unassisted. She could have had any number of complications, but the detective took her straight to the interrogation room. Her father was in shock and fully cooperating, not thinking about what it meant for the detective to go pick up his daughter. And the detective was able to place some wording in Lindsey's mind that she did parrot back to him during the interrogation. The other point in Lindsey's post-conviction relief petition was that the defense did not challenge the pathologists who testified for the state by hiring their own experts. You'll have to listen to my whole episode, but the pathologist had to admit on the stand that he based his ruling that the babies were smothered mostly on the detective's investigation and not their autopsies, which only showed an absence of injuries. Meaning, well, we cannot see how else they died, so they must have been smothered. It is standard for most defense attorneys to hire their own experts. I often talk about how trials come down to a battle of the experts. This did not happen in Lindsey's trial. We only have the state pathologist, and he admitted he based his ruling on what the detective told him, not the actual autopsy, which is kind of incredible to me. But that's not why Lindsey got a new trial. Despite these other points, Judge Gay, in his opinion, focused on Lindsey Lowe's right to a fair and impartial trial. Quote, "Because of the importance of this issue and its ramifications, the court will not address the other issues raised by the petitioner." He went on to say that the right to a trial by jury is one of the most basic protections provided by the U.S. Constitution, going on to quote Thomas Jefferson. But he himself wrote that, quote, "This undeniable right is not complete unless the jury composition can be altogether fair and impartial. An unqualified and biased juror can be a small cancer that spreads throughout the jury to the verdict they render. In guilty verdicts, the cancer continues and spreads through years of appellate litigation and post-conviction litigation until it is detected." I would have liked for Judge Gay to have explored the other parts of Lindsey's post-conviction relief petition, because they were, in fact, the parts of her case that really bothered me. I did briefly go through them here for you, though. But he is right that the biased juror is the most glaring error and one that Lindsey's attorney had more than one chance to catch. Not to mention, her attorney went to trial with one preemptory challenge left. He could have struck juror Jane Smith without even getting into battle with the prosecution. But it's absurd that she was simply not struck for cause. And as the legal analyst for News Channel 5 pointed out, the Attorney General probably doesn't have much of a chance to get Judge Gay's motion overturned because, quote, "of a massive error that strikes at the heart of the judicial system and our justice system." At the end of the day, no matter whether you believe Lindsey Lowe killed her newborns, no matter whether you believe she was having a psychotic break or other mental health issue, and no matter what you think of her morally or otherwise, she deserved a fair trial, and she did not get one. Southern Fried True Crime is hosted and produced by me, Erica Kelley. Today's episode was researched and written by Gemma Harris, with additional writing by me, and of course, all editorial opinions are my own. Southern Fried's original music is by Rob Harrison of Gamma Radio, and the original graphic art is by Coley Horner. Today's episode was edited and mixed by Brandon Scheck-Snyder of Southern Gothic and me, Erica Kelley. If you have any case suggestions, please go to my website and click on the listener suggestion tab or email sftcresearch@gmail.com. You'll get lost in a sea of emails if you send it to my main address, so this is the best way for me to get those little-known cases y'all always send me. Please remember that I do not accept suggestions on social media private messages. With 3 platforms to manage, that is very overwhelming for me. I hope you understand. But please come join our Facebook group, Southern Fried True Crime Fans Discussion Group, where we swap recipes, worship Dolly Parton, and share memes. I much prefer spending my social media time in our lovely group. We do, of course, discuss true crime, not just Southern fried, but all kinds. But it is still very much a Southern lifestyle group. Our group is a safe and fun corner of Facebook, and by God, we mean it when we say no shit ass is allowed. It's not just a motto, it's how we run the group. If you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to subscribe and please tell a friend or rate and review on iTunes. I'm also on all large platforms like iHeart, Spotify, and now Amazon Audible and YouTube. Until next time, thanks so much for listening. Y'all take care.